Hello, welcome to Bird's Eye View. In this series, we'll discuss everything bus related from the perspective of an industry-leading school bus manufacturer. I'm Lauren Beaty, Grants Manager at Bluebird.
And I'm Albert Burleigh, Bluebird's Executive Director of EV Business Development.
In this season, we'll discuss how to electrify your school bus fleet. So, let's jump on the bus.
Let's get started.
Today we're going to talk about infrastructure and how to charge an electric bus. Today we have a very special guest with us, Luke Nolan from InCharge Energy.
Welcome, Luke.
Hey, thank you. It's nice to be here in Macon, Georgia. As you guys know, I'm the global account manager that supports the Bluebird partnership, and InCharge is the preferred partner of Bluebird for all hardware, software, and turnkey installation solutions for the dealerships and the end customers. And I'm happy to be here supporting the school bus industry because growing up, I also rode the school bus, and School Bus 51 for Wayne Highlands School District brings a lot of happy memories for me.
Awesome. Yeah, we're really happy for you to be here as well. So thanks for coming, I know, all the way from Santa Monica, California. So we'll get started. We obviously get a lot of questions from customers on charging infrastructure and how to charge their electric school buses. Is it just chargers when we talk about infrastructure, or is there more?
There's most certainly more. The charger is, of course, an important component of that, but often it includes everything from infrastructure upgrades like switchgear and transformers. At times, it can include solar, photovoltaics, battery energy storage, and microgrids. So it really varies based on the application, and it's all we always say that it's kind of like a snowflake machine, not a cookie cutter. Every scenario is kind of unique, and we try to customize and make sure that we assess each situation in a way to understand what are the school's dwell times, what are the routes they run, what is their nameplate rating on the existing equipment, so that we can apply the correct solution for each customer.
A lot involved. Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
So if you were to break all of that down into what would the first steps, if you could walk us through maybe the first 2 or 3 steps a school district would need to know.
Yeah, so it kind of all begins in that discovery phase of doing an assessment with the school district. That kind of begins with understanding what's their load capacity, what is their current nameplate rating on the electrical equipment. What is their short and long-term vision for transitioning the fleet from diesel to electric? So these are all considerations that we begin to understand, and also factoring in site constraints or what the layout looks like for them, so that we can apply all of these factors towards a solution that will ultimately work best for them and begin with a preliminary layout.
Okay. And can you explain a little bit more? I know Albert probably knows this, but the nameplate reading and then what you mentioned before that. Just as
the load capacity.
Yeah.
Load capacity. I think of load capacity in the way of how much capacity you have. Generally a lot of the electrical use could already be taken care of by the existing electrical in the building. And when we talk about nameplate, it's what's coming into the building, right?
Okay.
Is it 480 volt? Is it 208 to 240 volt? These are all really important considerations with the type of equipment that you would end up pairing to electrify your fleet.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's interesting. You said it's kind of like a snowflake machine. They're all different. Would you say most school districts who are looking at infrastructure require some kind of upgrades? Is it generally more than fewer that don't?
Yeah, I would say nearly all school districts require an upgrade in some form or another.
Okay.
Especially if they're looking at larger steps in terms of transitioning their fleets. There are some instances where level 2 equipment might be apt for what the school is trying to accomplish with their electric school bus. But in most scenarios, if they currently don't have 480 three-phase power coming into the facility, that some sort of upgrade would be required. And generally, it's wise to kind of do that up front, if you're thinking of the long-term solution for fleet electrification.
Okay. So if it's 1 or 2 buses, maybe not. But if they want to continue to electrify their fleet over time, certainly upgrades are going to be required. So
right.
Yep.
I would say eventually, especially in all of these states that are zero-emission vehicle or EV-friendly states, you're going to want to be thinking in that direction anyway. And if you could dig only once, that saves you money in the long run.
Yeah, good advice. So hear a lot about charge management, and what's involved in that, and why is that important for a school district to understand charge management and how it can assist their fleet through this?
Yeah, charge management is kind of like the brains behind the operation, and it's ultimately how a fleet operator or a driver who's using the chargers would be able to monitor and optimize their fleet. So there's a number of ways that it's really important for school districts. I'd say big one is lowering your total cost of ownership. Another is that when it comes to these grants and what the utility is giving you, that it's required often to report on the charging data in order to receive that money. So, free money isn't even free. You got to do something to go get it, and that's important. There's also revenue opportunities for schools through the charge management software, so I can touch a little bit on that. But, one of the really primary uses is just focusing on depot productivity. So through our platform, which we call InControl, we're able to use it to log service requests. It tracks all of that information so that we could see a history. Imagine that versus kind of logging things through an email or phone. It's kind of difficult, and you lose track of that. So at the very basis, we do that. And given that it's able to be managed remote, we're able to solve a lot of our service requests without even sending a truck or deploying a technician to the site. Nearly 75% of our requests for service are solved just over the air. 40% of those requests are just solved with a reset. It's kind of like rebooting your computer sometimes solves the issue. So, same thing. And every minute or every day that your bus is inoperable or your charger's inoperable, that's kind of time or money lost depending on the way you look at your fleet. So kind of having InControl is one way that facilitates that. You could also use it to just monitor usage, understand if the charger's in use. If you're deploying a large fleet, that kind of becomes important to just overall productivity. And, lowering the TCO is, a big thing that we think of at the school districts. Load management is a capability that we're able to offer with our DC chargers. So that can help with demand savings, make sure you lower your, you don't fall into like peak territory and you're shaving off that. So we can create rules that help them save money in the long run. And then as far as, revenue opportunities are concerned, there are, in states like California, the LCFS credits. So that requires reporting data, which can all be automated through a platform like InControl. In the future, too, you think of VDEX opportunity, right? InControl would be a tool to help facilitate that as well. So,
Okay.
Even in demand response events, where I'm in California, we have these public safety power shutoffs, right? So in those events, when you can sell power back to the grid, or they'll pay you to not use power at all, having a platform like InControl to help monetize that is something that help benefit a school district customer.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it shows how important the charge management really is. You talked about load management a little bit. So what would happen if a school had, let's say, 10 EV buses and it decided to charge them all at the same time, using DC fast chargers, putting a lot of energy, using a lot of energy from the grid all at the same time? What would happen there typically?
Well, in all likelihood, depending on its particular utility, you may creep into what they call demand charges, right? So let's just use a wild example of saying, past 15 kilowatts, then you're into a new threshold of, payment, right? And maybe that's double, the charge, right? So you might be a little surprised what your energy bill looks like if you're doing that. But kind of knowing what those utility rates are allows you to apply some rules through the software so you can help manage that a little bit better. Of course, there may be times where you just need to charge because you got to run your routes, right? These are all important. But, planning around that is important to help, like I said, lower your total cost of ownership of operating a bus fleet.
Got it.
So the charge management software, that is standard with every bus.
We sell it as a part of every every engagement. Yeah, a school could just buy the hardware.
Okay.
But honestly, I don't know why they would. The load management really pays for itself.
Okay.
So I think if a school district is being smart about this, they would really require this. That would be very important for them.
Yeah, how hard or easy? What's to train people on this? Is it?
Oh, it's incredibly user friendly. A few months ago, I knew nothing about InControl. So, it's like being able to operate it like on a day-to-day basis. You kind of see how easy it is. It's not even app-based. It's something you log in from your browser anywhere, whether that's your phone, tablet, to get a view of your depot. So it's very user-friendly, very intuitive.
Wow. So another thing we hear, get a lot of questions about are customers asking, should I use level 2 charging? Should I use DC fast charging? Kind of what are the differences, and how do you help a customer decide what the best solution is?
Yeah, so the level 2 would be what we call AC charging, or alternating current. Really, these products come with about a 3 kilowatt to a 19.2 kilowatt sort of output rating, and generally they're 208 to 240 volt connects. So the important consideration, I think, overall when talking about AC versus DC is that when it comes to the battery, they could only store DC. Mm-hmm. So somewhere along this line, the AC needs to get converted into DC to be stored in the battery. Generally, that occurs on an onboard charger or somewhere outside of the charger itself, but there's a little power loss in that process, right? So you're thinking of charging from 3 to 19.2 kilowatts. It's at a lower maximum output rating. So in most instances, AC level charging just doesn't make sense for a school customer based on its routes. But there are some scenarios where it may make sense. It all kind of varies, and like we said, it's a snowflake machine when we talk about.
It takes a lot longer, right, to charge? I mean, that's one of the downsides.
Exactly. If you have a really long dwell time, it may be something that works for you. But in most scenarios, a higher power charge is necessary. And also with AC level charging, you're missing out on a lot of that smart software technology like load management that you could be getting, because it's more or less a smart switch, on and off, where DC, you get a little more. With DC, like you're saying, level 3 or DC direct current charging, generally that's coming with 480 volt connect, and some of them are one phase. For the most part, though, it's 3-phase connect, which is kind of the general distribution for the industry. With DC, you get all the smart capabilities that we're talking about within the software, and also the output ranges anywhere from, let's say, 24 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts. Wow. So, when it comes to, maintaining a route, say you're running 70, 80 miles with your bus, in all likelihood, a DC charger is going to be your best fit to meet the demands of your route. But that's really where we come in. We do this assessment. We try to analyze your routes, your dwell times, the climate that you're in, for instance, to understand what the best solution is for you.
Fantastic.
So do all chargers work with all EV buses? It's a really softball question.
Well, it's kind of a complex question, because I think the short answer is kind of yes, but also the answer is also no in a way. It really depends on compatibility between the bus and the charger. Within this program, we put a lot of effort into interoperability testing the chargers with the buses.
What's that?
It's kind of just testing the chargers to make sure that the functions that we have work with the bus, that the charging operates as it should. And I'll give you an example. There's a DC charger that I'm familiar with that's about 24 kilowatts, right? This charger has like a 550 to 700 volt rating, and with the Bluebird bus, which I think was around 650, that derates the output, I think, 30 amps. So really with the 24 kilowatt, you're now charging at 19 kilowatts right there.
Oh.
So it's at a reduced rating, making it still a decent solution if you're testing the DC fast charging capability on the bus, or just trying to bring the bus up to a higher state of charge. But factor in other considerations, like you're in a cold weather climate, and the thermal management system is going to help support preconditioning the bus before the route. With a thermal management system consuming, say, somewhere around 10 kilowatts of that charge, you're now charging at 9 kilowatts with that unit. And that makes it a poor operational experience for the bus driver. And I think that's why interoperability testing is so important for our end customers and for the Bluebird partnership, because it can give customers the peace of mind that the sort of product that we're presenting to them and that we're recommending is truly the best fit for them. And there's going to be no surprises down the road. They may see a lot of recommendations for level 2 because it's less expensive. With us, we're truly going to give you a recommendation that only works for your needs.
Perfect. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. So thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Luke. And that's our bird's eye view on infrastructure and charging.